Now, we also mentioned one thing that one of the problems we face as Nigerians is that we exist in a culture, in a system that encourages the lack of accountability.
Mm-hmm.
That part of the problem is why
Yeah.
people want to leave the country because there is a lack of accountability. Like
Yes.
there's no one to be held accountable for whatever.
Yeah.
You can do anything wrong,
Yeah.
True.
and then
Just-
you just.
just get away with
I mean,
it.
and that's what actually inspired the NSAS. I think my next question is actually going to. What blocking is this? Okay, we'll do it, Sha. I want to hear Joshua and I want to hear Dr. speak about the lack of accountability in Nigeria, not just as not in our system, but even as a culture from the family. So he said something one time. Thank God he said this thing. It was a promo for a show. I think it was your show. The whole thing about someone being silly.
Yes, Child International. Yes.
About I asked like
Yes.
should you
Something.
tell
Yeah,
your-
yeah.
tell your
Child
parents
International.
that they are being silly. And I was like, what if they are being silly? And then he just laughed because we get what that means in an African setting.
Mhm.
But for me, it really speaks to the fact that we are not trained to hold people accountable once they are older, richer in government or whatever it is.
Mhm.
A
Yes.
lecturer.
True.
I was talking to him about how like in uni, I had a lecturer who bullied me, like decimated my self-esteem for a year or two. And as an adult now, I'm like, how did I allow him get away with that shit? I can just call him out and be like, about man, go to hell or whatever. As a child then, I couldn't have because I was trained not to talk back at
A lot of stuff when you think about it. Now.
a lot of stuff that
Like sometimes you physically express that anger, just like
yeah,
like how
how did I
did
let that happen to me? And even in the home it's like that with your parents too as well.
Yes.
They do things that are wrong, and you know, but you're not raised to tell them, to call them out.
Mhm.
So it's parents, it's lecturers, it's your chairman, it's your governor, it's your president,
Right.
and so we've all not had that, sense of calling them out
Condition.
up until which is why I mean the whole NSAS thing. I felt like thank God it came. I felt like it would have come earlier, and it shouldn't have even stopped on police brutality alone. There are a lot of things to protest about, but I want to hear what you guys think about the culture of lack of accountability in Nigeria.
This particular statement, it's one of the things that irks me the most, the lack of accountability that we have in this country. And like you said, yes, it started from the home. You can't tell your parents when they do something wrong. We have this Oli Bagbawi. You can't correct an elder because they will tell you what an elder sees sitting down, you cannot see standing up. And it has given our older ones this sense of entitlement that no one can tell me what to do or what I've done wrong or what I'm doing. It has to be this. This is my age. This is your age. Respect me at all costs. Shut up. Don't speak up. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. And then we move from the home to the primary school. A child will have probably read ahead of class, maybe ahead of the teacher. And then the teacher says something that is wrong in class, and the child says, oh, I think it's this, and then the teacher says, are you the teacher or am I the teacher?
As against, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And then we move from there to secondary school. If you know too much, you are termed as not even precocious, you're ITK, oversabi. I too do. You move from secondary school to university, and it continues that pattern. There's this fear that has been instilled in us from childhood that we are so afraid to speak up for ourselves, and then it creates this anger that builds and builds and builds till it gets to boiling point and it just spills out. And most times when it spills out, it spoils things.
Please permit me to share a story with you. Sometimes I like to think of myself as someone who's always been privileged, and I really don't know why, but I would like to say personally, I fought for everything. So growing up, interesting family, grew up, by that barrack. But I remember, I was really, really rebellious, but my parents allowed me, my mom especially. She learned, she did so many things. So I learned all of those things, and then I could speak for myself. So we grew up in a family where you mustn't, as they used to say in Pidgin, they must not beat you come house. You know, so you can't come home. So I was really like that, and then I would often defend my friends and within the estate and would fight. So I remember then. So my parents, they would teach us that, and some 5-7 years after, I was in a secondary school, in my JS 1 or 2 thereabout. The school owned by my aunt. So my father was the patron of the school, also the patron of Greenhouse. So every year, I participated in several things, but I made sure not to be in Greenhouse because I wanted to defeat my father. And not because I wanted to defeat my father, because the teachers, the Greenhouse teachers, the sports coordinator, and all of that, they would come home to see my dad, and then they would gist and discuss, and they would get, do I call it bribe, but he would often give them things. And every year, Greenhouse would come first. So this particular year, I told myself and I told my mom and my siblings, I said, never, Red House, we're going to win this year. So I participated in every activity. I spent the entire term. And so we won. It was clear. It was obvious. But somehow, because of this patron, the patron of the school, so they had to maneuver it somehow. And then Greenhouse came first. So I still have that picture. I remember my family. I remember my dad telling me that time that, so you don't know anything when you grow up. You know. So then I was really angry. I was furious when they were having the family picture with the teachers and the holding the cup. So I was in that picture, but I stood to one side. So you would have the crowd here, and then I was there, and I was angry. I was crying. I had my scroll or something with me. And what that taught me, I remember asking my mom, so why all this training, this upbringing of you must be like this, you must, so, really about accountability. That created a big issue between I and my dad, and it went on and on and on. But really about accountability. Over the years, I've been making works with theatre, as you know, public spaces over government. I got to a point where I told myself, no, it's not about blaming the government anymore, because I've gone deep into Lagos. I've gone to Mushin, I've gone to Okota. I've had this research, and I saw that we have the leadership problem, but the followership problem is it's deeper. Yes. You would go to local governments around Lagos, around Nigeria. People don't come to work.
Yes.
That's not government. And they are being paid monthly. Yes. Yeah, it's a government institution, but that's not government. That's you and I. We were chatting about this every Saturday, sanitation.
Yes.
We had it. And it was about clean your space, I clean my space. And that's it. I lived in Bariga for many years. When it rained, everyone who lived in Bariga would carry a refuse, jets, would pour it into the water, into the sea, forgetting that sometimes the sea would rise above the normal level, and it would come, and then everyone would shout, "Oh, iyotide, iyonwanulewa," So really, iyo is that water that spills from underneath the ground into the house, wherever you are. You don't know when it happens, and then it fills up. So the issue with accountability is it's not just about age, but it's even from how we teach children. A child who's not been trained to be accountable can never be accountable.
Exactly.
So yeah.
It's a socialization flaw.
It is. It's another thing. We have this mind your business attitude. And that has also added to this lack of accountability that we have. You will be in a bus, for example. Your bus driver will pass one way. And you speak up, and you have the entire bus shut you down
against you. Yes, very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
And then you'll be like the enemy of state.
Exactly.
Yeah, progress.
Because yes, enemy of progress. Because you're trying to insist on doing what is right. You'll see people crossing the road right beneath the pedestrian bridge.
Exactly.
That thing pisses me off.
Exactly.
No time.
Yes,
Do you understand?
are you that in a hurry to die?
Wow.
It's the truth.
Gag.
Apapa Oshood, the expressway of all places.
Yeah.
People do it.
Lucky.
Oshodi
With
Gbagada.
trucks.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but let me say something. I think the thing about accountability is twofold. There is a culture, but then there's also the structure part of it. The structure part of it about how, like, even if you want to mess up as a human being, what structures are in place to make sure that they catch you and do it so you don't do it again. I mean, you can run a red light, but then when you get home, you get a ticket or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here, people just do things
It's
and
happening.
No,
Ooh,
interestingly, it's happening in Lagos
It's happening
now.
now.
And it's so nice.
Someone gave a story of how his uncle was rushing to an Owambe.
Ah,
the
God.
traffic lights at Allen. He ran the red light, and as he was getting to the Owambe in Alausa, he was getting his ticket.
Exactly.
lovely.
20,000 naira.
Yes.
Ooh.
You can't bargain it. No lawyer, no nothing. You will pay.
It was the
Pay
sweetest
first
story I ever
before
heard.
story.
Yeah.
And
I loved
I like
it.
to see these things happen in other states as well.
Yeah,
This is something.
and yeah, thank you. The thing I was also going to say about accountability, right, is that it also boils down, right, from the top. In this sense, people at the lower level of the echelon pole, permit me to use that word, right? They can get away with those things, like you said, because then that there's no consequence. And I also feel like your boss must have been doing something that he also gets away with, which is what allows you to do that. I was at a conference recently. Then Chika was there, former permanent secretary, and she said something here. She said when she was permanent secretary, very interesting story, right? That when she gets to work, that it was just as if people always come late and they always like sign for themselves and all that. It was like a constant thing. So she started getting to work, I think for 7, right? As the boss, right? So she started getting to work for 7, and she makes sure people at work know she's at work. You get so by that time, right? Then you come to work, is like, I'm permanent secretary to deal. Permanent secretary to deal. She said she never stopped. A week, 2, it went on like that. Everybody immediately aligned. Do you get my points, right? Everybody immediately aligned.
Imagine.
If at the local government level, if it's the councillor, if it's the chairman, if you come to work regularly and you do your work at the right time, it trickles down. Thank you. It will be hard for somebody who is collecting 30K to come to work.
Sloppy.
Thank you, to be sloppy, because you know that your boss is doing the work. And I always say something, right, that the best way to teach people is actually by showing them.
Yes.
It's never about telling them,
Yes.
which is something like we also had growing up. There's this experience I always give here. Growing up, when in the morning we pray, we do our normal morning prayers and all that, and then when we're in the living room, right, my brothers, my mom, and then we're singing, we're praising that and all that. My mom shouts at everybody, stand up, but she's sitting down. so like in my head, I'm like, I'm praying to God. Mommy, you are not bigger than God. Obviously, I can't
But
do that.
why can't you
But
say
in
it
my-
though?
But in my head, I'm like,
That's the problem.
but in my head, I'm like, Mom, see, you should stand up. But like, you told me to stand up, right? And the thing is, if she stood up and she was praying and singing, it would be hard for me to sit down.
Yeah.
Because like my mom is standing
Yes.
up, I automatically stand up. Yes, I just feel like it trickles down eventually. Yeah, like if the people at the top are doing what they should be doing, and
Yes.
also if there are repercussions to not doing what they are doing, then the people at the lower level definitely won't get away with some things, and they
Yes.
definitely won't do some things. So again, it still goes back up.
Yeah.